Jason Pleym. Jason is the president and co-founder of Two Rivers Meats, founded in January 2008 by Jason and his wife Margot. Inspired by Margot's father's farm, Pemberton Meadows Natural Beef, the couple set out to find other producers of cattle, poultry, sheep, game, and pork, and that demonstrated the same dedication to ethical and sustainable animal husbandry. Today, Two Rivers Meats represents over 20 small-scale farms, ranches, and producers, supplying dozens of restaurants, hotels, and retailers across British Columbia. Please welcome Jason Pleym.
Thank you, Richard, and everybody for showing up here tonight for Food Talk Volume 2. So let me take you back to the summer of 2007. My wife and I had left the city, left our jobs in the spring, and found ourselves in Golden, my hometown. My brother owned a whitewater rafting company there and had a school bus with a vacancy sign, and so we moved in, and I worked as a guide for a number of years on the kicking horse, so there we were, trying to figure life out, a reality break from perhaps the city, but not from our own minds of just trying to figure out what to do next. So I remember pretty clearly in August, my father-in-law was up with his wife, Dawn and Mary Millard, and I'm thinking, what the hell is this guy doing? He's got my wife, my daughter, who grew up in West Vancouver, and a pretty well-to-do family and so on, and a year after marriage, school bus on the banks of the river. So yeah, that's a great conversation for later. So what are we going to do? The river season is finishing, and so does the money. And so what do? We've had a few ideas about the meat business because of my father-in-law, who started Pemberton Meadows Natural Beef a few years earlier, and I was fortunate to do a bit of distribution with that with a previous meat company that I worked with. And so a few things that we had kind of cooking throughout the summer kind of fell apart, and there we were thinking, do we stay in Golden? And there's a mill here. I grew up, I can work there, and we could just kind of figure it out. And so that didn't work out, and we didn't want to do that, obviously. And so a few drinks later with my father-in-law, and we kind of thought, well, why don't we just start a meat company? We've got some beef. You've sold it before. We can figure it out, and why don't you do that? So yeah, let's start a meat company. So in August, we decided we're going to start a meat company. We moved back to the city in September. We had a company incorporated by the end of October. And now was just kind of waiting for beef because we didn't have any yet because it was seasonal still. But we had worked a few details out so that we could not only spring calf, but we could also fall calf with another farm in Pemberton. And so January 2008, it was the 11th, a Friday. The delivery truck showed up late, like at 7 o'clock at night, because I couldn't find the place. We had scratched together. My father-in-law had a warehouse that was empty, full of old equipment that he wasn't using, and we cleaned it up and put a couple of coolers in it and a table to cut some meat on, and we started a meat company. Ground zero. That was it. The meat showed up. Four head of Pemberton beef. We customized and made our own hanging rack that worked, and filled a cooler up, and so there we were. It was late at night and I was staring at the beef, and I was like, holy shit, that same amount's gonna be back here in 2 weeks. I gotta get rid of this stuff. So I gotta cut it. So I gotta learn how to cut meat, because I wasn't a meat cutter. I mean, I could walk my way around a carcass, but I wasn't a meat cutter, right? So so it was a daunting task. 4 head of beef. It sounds very small. 4 heads, like a couple of cows, right? But 4 head of sides hanging in a cooler is a daunting sight. When you got to break it apart and figure out how you're going to ship it, and then figure out where you're going to ship it. We did a bit of legwork, pretense to getting the product, and so it worked out. I mean, I spent 20 hours a day or ish to learn how to cut, and I had people coming in to help me, just to show me, give me some detail and how to cut and work this product. We didn't have a delivery van at the time, so it was we had some freight companies that helped us out to move stuff into the corridor to Worcester and Pemberton, which there was a bit of a following for the product. So conceptually, we just we needed to figure out what we were going to do. I mean, the meat industry, the meat trade in Canada, meat trade in Vancouver is a very mature business. The companies have been around for quite some time, and so a new company to walk in with a concept, there's resistance, and so something new with a bit of a different story perhaps would get us some legs. The Pemberton beef was a great story. The relationship that we had there obviously was my father-in-law, so I spent lots of time on the farm on the weekends to help out and just understand what was going on there. So knowing the details from birth and so on through the feeding process and to get to the point where it's time to take them to market, and then we took care of it from there to hang it properly and age it and then cut it specifically specialized to the needs of chefs in Vancouver. And so that kind of became the concept. I mean, ish, right? Because it was all very new, right? So local, we had an interesting story. We had a transparency of details that were from birth, and we took it to the plate. So we really brought the farm to the chef and gave them all the details that they needed, which was something that was not around, something that just wasn't available. The whole story of what the farmers did, how they treated their animals, what they fed their animals, and that whole kind of life story of the animal, and then we took it to our side. So to hang it properly and really care for the meat, so that a chef would appreciate what you're going to get. So we figured that out. I mean, it took some time, but we got it going. We started dry aging all the prime cuts, which was really interesting. Just like reducing a sauce, you're pulling that water out of the meat and creating these amazing flavors. And I remember doing some really crazy stuff for Warren Garrity at West at the time. Went very, 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 very early on when we started, and so that was the start. A few months after we started, we got a delivery van with refrigeration, great, and we landed Sloping Hills Pork, which was fantastic. It had a great name around the city. Rob Belchin was doing some really great things with it, and so we managed to get our hands on that and take on the distribution. And then started breaking and cutting pork. So now we're cutting pork. By that time, we had some help, part-time butchers to come in and help and do things for us. And great. So we got a couple of lines of product, and things are rolling. The beef was 100 head, which was 4 head every 2 weeks at the time. And we rolled into the summer and thought, okay, we got 2 lines of product. We got some sales happening. We need some chicken. What else do we need? We got to get some stuff. And so we had a couple people working for us now, and we went into the Fraser Valley, and wow, there is a lot of great stuff in the Fraser Valley, and it wasn't really being tapped into. It was just kind of like no one was really grabbing onto it and saying, look at this stuff. Like let's tell the story. Let's talk about what they're doing and bring it to those guys, bring it to the chefs. And so we did that. We brought in some duck. We hooked up with Thiessen Farm. He's been doing, it's a 3rd generation game bird farm. So we hooked up with those guys. We did some work with Maple Hill with chicken. We started working with Johnson Packers and their pork as well, just to have, because Sloping Hill was so limited, we had 4 head every week, which is 4 heads, not a lot of pork. So we managed to hook up with Johnson Packers, and there wasn't really anybody using their product into restaurants, lots of butcher shops, right? So I still remember our first order. It was like we had to buy 5 bellies. We couldn't get 2 for the order. We had to get 5. And you know, we got a lot more than 5 now, but it was those kinds of transitions that was, you know, that proved to be difficult in trying to figure out starting a business. So we are now 4.5 years old, and we got a great crew of people working for us, and from the warehouse to shipping and receiving to production to operations and sales. We've got a great sales crew of 4 guys from the Okanagan to Vancouver Island, covering everything, and it's been a great journey. We're now and we've recently just launched our new line of charcuterie, dry cured meats, salamis and muscle meats, and it's going to start hitting the streets in the next couple weeks. So we got a lot going on, and with the thank of the farmers.
Congratulations.
Thanks,